The secret to North Korea's survival. Hey there, welcome back to our channel. Given the geopolitical situation of North Korea, its tough history of famines and the targeted assassination of leadership, it is hard to believe that the country would survive all these years and even regain economic stability. During the 1990s, the USSR had dissolved and the new government formed in Russia halted their economic support for North Korea and favored South Korea instead. This resulted in a major economic crisis for the country, leading to widespread famines during which millions of people died. The onset of natural disasters worsened the situation, resulting in a rise in the death toll. The period 1994-1998 accounted for the most defections, as many of the citizens shifted to South Korea for the sake of their livelihood, since all humans have a right to protect their well-being. Now that we know the aid from Russia was blocked with the coming of the new government, the country has always remained somewhat internationally isolated due to its questionable policies. So, how did they manage the economic comeback? Well, it wouldn't be wrong to say that the organization basically runs the state and is so crucial for the ruling of the country that the operations of the organization are run by the Kim family themselves. You might have guessed it right. We are talking about none other than Office 39 and its gross operations, so essential in maintaining the country's assets and the luxury of its leadership. Given the fact that its revenue is large enough to keep the economy of an entire nation stable, it is easy to decipher that whatever operations the organization performs is on a hefty scale, one that shouldn't be undermined. What is the secret behind Office 39, and why is it so secretive in the first place? And most importantly, can they be brought to the light? If not, then how has the organization managed to not only survive but also thrive in all these years? If you're interested in uncovering the details of this mysterious organization, keep watching to find out. History. The establishment of Room 39 took place before the nation witnessed the economic crisis in the 1990s. It actually served as a rehab unit for the country when the country was facing a default in 1974 on international loans, when Kim Jong-il decided to take matters into his own hands. Because who cares if the general population is being overwhelmed by inflation and the nation's economy is in crisis? Being acutely aware of his family's lifestyle, he knew it would be impossible for them to survive under such circumstances. So as a backup plan, he formed a separate economic unit within the country by unifying different corporations within the state that generated good revenue in foreign currency, that not only ensured the luxurious lifestyle of Kim's family, but also stabilized the national economy, initially functioning as a finance and accounting department for the country. Who would have known the organization would become one of the biggest drug exporters of its time? The organization was named after its arbitrary office in its Workers' Party building in Pyongyang, under which the operations took place. In 2009, the North Korean newspaper reported of another entity formed under Kim Jong-il, Office 38, that later merged into the Room 39, serving as a front organization for Room 39, and handles all the affairs of the legal businesses of Kim's family, forming a good cover-up story for all the hideous work that takes place behind closed doors. The fact that the country is run by a bunch of money-hungry crooks and liars who only care for their own interests, but still get worshipped by the public that they allegedly starved to death during the 90s, is nothing short of bizarre and probably needs more international attention than we think. Anyway, moving on to the dark dealings of Office 39, the organization literally has the whole estate backing it up and proceeds the way it wants to without any interference from the government or international organization. The Bureau is also involved in the management of foreign currency funds from the hotels in Pyongyang, zinc and gold mining, as well as agricultural and fisheries exports. Kind of feels pretty clean till now, doesn't it? The office is reported to have 120 companies running under its name, both of legal and illegal origin. Some of the most notable companies that are suspected to be part of the network are the Rugyong Corporation, Korean Daesung Bank, Green Pine Associated Corporation, as well as Glocom and Korea Kumgang Group. Even though there is no solid evidence that the companies work for the said organization. Since Office 39 guards the information of its beneficiaries fiercely, these companies have been under scrutiny by international organizations due to their suspicious activities and involvement with the Korean government. When we talk about the Ryugyong Corporation, we are talking about a state-owned construction company that is known for its unique architecture and is responsible for the construction of numerous prominent buildings within North Korea. Perhaps the most notable is the Ryugyong Hotel within Pyongyang, the country's capital, a massive pyramid-shaped skyscraper launching into the sky with its impressive structure. Construction began in 1987, but halted in 1992 due to shortage of funds. The famine that occurred afterwards is enough to state the direness of the situation, so it wouldn't seem prudent for the government to continue with building their skyscrapers to boast about the non-existent wealth of the country, while half of the population was allegedly dying of hunger. However, construction resumed in 2008, when the economy of the country got more stable and the Ryugyong Corporation decided they could move on with their project. The structure was completed in 2011 and stands as one of the tallest buildings of the country till date. Apart from the hotel, it has been part of many construction projects within the country, including residential buildings and commercial complexes. But since it's a state-owned organization, the role it plays within these projects remains somewhat anonymous due to the secretive nature of the Korean government and its financial affairs. Apart from Ryugyong Corporation, the Korean Daesung Bank is also known for its cooperation with the Korean government, as well as Office 39. It has been subject to much international criticism due to facilitating such state-owned organizations, despite sanctions imposed by various countries, as well as engaging in illicit financial activities, like money laundering and fraudulent activities that has resulted in its isolation from many of the nations, aiming to reduce its financial activities. The bank handles funds for the department that have been generated from drug dealing and smuggling, and the fact that these activities are backed by the government makes the situation much more serious, resulting in reactions from international organizations like asset freezes and restrictions on financial transactions that had an adverse effects on its operations, as well as the entities working with the bank. We also have an overseas organization that has been alleged to be the front of North Korean arms sales. Glocom is a Malaysia-based company that facilitates the transaction of arsenals on the behalf of the North Korean government to various countries, including the ones that have been placed embargoes by the United States, like Syria and Iran. The company operates under various names and aliases, including Glocom, Pan Systems, and Pan Marine, and is involved in the sale and distribution of military equipment, including communication systems, radar systems, and other defense-related technology. The company has to face sanctions within its own country that aim to restrict its operations and limit its international access, making it difficult for the company to continue its operations. However, due to its established source of network of international beneficiaries, the operations of the company continue quite smoothly, allowing it to pass undetected by local and international authorities while operating through various front companies and shell corporations in Malaysia, China, and Singapore. Credit could also go to its affiliation with the North Korean government that makes its status one to fear. Although there isn't any solid evidence that backs up its affiliation with Office 39 due to the intense secrecy it operates in, there might be a high chance the Korean Kumgang Group, a state-owned company, could be part of the whole regime. This is because Kim chose those companies with a heavy foreign income to overcome the deficit caused by the lack of international fund. Given the fact that the Kumgang Group generates a large source of its income through international tourism, makes it a likely player in the whole regime, working under Office 39 and maintaining the luxurious lifestyles of North Korean elites. Apart from these organizations, there are various companies that work under Office 39, but due to the poor reputation of the country and the questionable activities the department has been involved in, most of the affiliations with the department remain a secret. This secrecy proves beneficial for the government as well as the corporations working under the Office 39 due to the large-scale revenue it generates as part of its widespread network that it operates in, while safeguarding the reputation of the organization. However, what is it that has allowed Office 39 to continue its operation relatively smoothly, despite various sanctions imposed by international authorities? And what exactly goes on behind closed doors of Room 39 that allows it to run the economy of an entire nation? Keep watching to find out. Office 39. Operations. The kind of deeds that happen behind closed doors of Office 39 may be a bit hard to believe for some. An organization originally built to acquire foreign funds for the country is determined to get them through any means possible. From drug dealing and counterfeiting to human trafficking, you are allowed to run your imagination free, but not in the most neutral way possible. All the ex-employees don't seem very enthusiastic in responding to questions about the nature of their work, even if they worked on the legitimate side of the corporation, which might be due to the privacy policies of the organization. An interviewee on the ABC channel, who happened to be an ex-employee at Office 39 and worked as an agent in Daesung Group, that is known to handle much of the affairs for the company. He was assigned to the Kumgang Trading Company, discussed earlier, that traded various spices, precious gemstones as well as gold to different parts of Asia. Part of his job was to help manage and sell gold from the rivers and mines of North Korea, which was smuggled into China so that it could be sold as Chinese gold in the international markets. This is all part of the greater strategy employed by the North Korean government, where one could even understand and sympathize with their view of the story, since the nation faces sanctions from countries all over the world that leaves it economically isolated and hard to survive on its own. Since no one would buy the gold if it came as a product of North Korea, the company is left with no choice but to employ such means and trade gold with secrecy and without any certification. The process proves quite easy, considering the fact that China is heavily involved within the whole ordeal, where all they need to do is change the company's names and have branches in other countries so that the market is more accepting. Since the Korean-Chinese border is wide open and expands on 1,000 kilometers distance, smuggling across the countries is made much more convenient. Apart from gold, there's a whole line of tradables that Office 39 has been accused of, including drugs, weapons, and fake notes, that has brought the institution to limelight. Things started to get a bit queasy for the organization as their counterfeiting heist was caught in 2004 when the ever-unique ship berthed in Port Newark, and the FBI investigators decided to dig around the ship in hopes of finding something of their interest as part of a sting operation. As the cargo was taken out of the ship, one of the boxes was separated and brought forth before its contents were disseminated, revealing flawless copies of $100 bills, making a total of $300,000. They were the finest copies, even better than the originals, that became the sole reason for their exposure. these copious now showed up on various instances, and more frequently than before. $3 million were found 3 months later on the same port, which became a matter of grave concern for the US government, and upon further investigation, it was realized that the counterfeit money had ties with the crime organizations based in South Asia. As time passed by, the US government and law enforcement officials openly accused the North Korean government of being behind the counterfeit. Since the ties between North Korea and China were good on both economic and political grounds, the US government thought Banco Delta Asia, based in Macau, made a good alibi for the North Korean government due to its affiliation with North Korean elites as well as offshore companies. That made it easier for them to operate in the international market. Thereby, the department issued the bank a declaration on the basis of money laundering concerns that ultimately led to its shutdown and the freezing of several overseas accounts belonging to the ruling elites of North Korea. Banco Delta Asia was accused of accepting large deposits of cash from North Korea, including the counterfeit US dollar currency, and agreed to put it into circulation while being aware of its origins. That does seem unfair and unnecessarily complicated, considering the circumstances, which made the bank an easy target for the US government to pursue. Counterfeiting currency has also previously been viewed as a statement for initiation of war, which made the act more offensive. Whatever the intentions were of the North Korean government, the act proved quite devastating for Office 39, since it had to face heavy losses and sanctions as a result of the dare they decided to pull, including the Korean officials who were involved and formed part of the ruling elites, and to whom these assets mostly belonged to. Let's get to the more notorious bits that you might already have an idea of, considering the affair is a pretty old one. North Korea has quite a history when it comes to drug trade, as the practice that has been going for decades. The nation was first alleged to be involved in drugs during the 70s when Kim Il-sung approved the development of Korea's first opium farm, and the country began cultivating the drug within the mountainous region of Hamgyong and Ryugyong provinces. This is approximately the same time Office 39 was formed, using the help of various corporations, including the Ryugyong Corporation, a state-owned asset controlled by the Korean Workers' Party, which proved a useful alibi for conducting these trades. The company owns acres of land dedicated to growing opium and sends tens of thousands of dollars to Kim Jong-un for his use. This speaks volumes of the origins of this practice and confirms the involvement of the North Korean government with the ongoing drug trade in the nation and close regions. It is hard to imagine that a land ridden with famine would use such vast plains of land for the cultivation of drugs, rather than for wheat, rice, or other edible grains, a complaint which was voiced during the famine in the 1990s. However, instead of listening to these protests, the government encouraged the public to go for intermittent fasting and continued to grow opium, because it is clear that the people's lives aren't as important to the Korean government as their revenue. One of the officials is reported to have said that if they grew poppies, they could sell the product 10 times as much as it would cost to buy grains. This was the response during the famine, when millions of people were dying of hunger. The sale of the opium dropped during the mid-2000s due to international pressure, which resulted in lower production and sales, but this was not before the prevalence of another drug that rose within the regions. Methamphetamine, a drug previously used for pharmaceutical purposes, now spans the world, known increasingly by another name: ice. Since the sale of opium was a large source of income for the country, the reduction in its sales was deeply felt by the office, which therefore needed another reliable source to generate revenue. It adopted a recreational use with the help of chemists and unemployed scientists who get paid heavily for their services, where it first spread within the country before being exported to China. The department had state-run laboratories allotted to the manufacture of the drug, which shows how invested they were within the trade. But due to the extremely secretive policies, none of the operations have been proved till date. However, in 2004, China admitted the drug problem stemming from North Korea, where the Jilin province formed the main trading point between the two countries. The network through which the final product forms is quite a vast one, spanning more than a few countries in Asia, including Philippines, Hong Kong, Thailand, and even the United States, in which the production, storage, financing, and sale of the drug take place. In 2010, 5 foreigners were prosecuted for the same reason, where the US law officials suspected them to be involved in the circulation of 40 pounds of methamphetamine, selling each pound for $30,000. The image of the country became further downgraded as more than 20 state officials were caught carrying drugs or were somehow involved in the dealings. Since these were the ruling elites, it was obvious where it all connected to. Office 39, that handled most of the international money thanks to the corporations it had adjoined, under one roof that brought in all the international money. It was able to make good profits from drug trade, especially during its initial years, where the revenue earned by the illegal trade was estimated to be $500 million to $1 billion in 2001, which reduced down to $100 to $200 million in 2013. Apart from meth, instances of other pharmaceutical drug trade have been associated with the North Korean government. Several of its embassy officials had been caught carrying clonazepam in Egypt, while Bulgarian embassy officials were caught in Turkey carrying Captagon, a synthetic stimulant, worth $7 million. However, the North Korean government denies any such affiliation with the individuals and claims they were acting on their own accord. Office 39 has an integral part to play in all these activities, as it forms the mastermind behind the plans that bring them into action. This extends to the trade of weapons to third world countries, where the arsenal provided may not be very advanced, but are efficient enough to perform the job. During the Iran-Iraq War, North Korea was one of the largest exporters of weapons to Iran, and during 1981 and 1989, the country generated $4 billion as a result of arms sales. The country is also known for its proliferation of nuclear weapons and missile technology, where the country is said to have raised $560 million as a result of missile sales in 2001. However, after its nuclear test in 2006, various sanctions have been imposed by international organizations on the country that has limited its arms and weapons sales to an extent, but its extensive network that transcends borders, along with its strong connections in all the right places, allows them to continue operating without much restrictions, despite UN sanctions. The nation was also suspected to supply Myanmar, Syria, Ethiopia, and Tanzania with weapons, all of them which were war-torn countries and were up against the US or its allies. Strong leadership. The Korean Workers' Party, KWP, is the ruling political party in North Korea. It was founded in 1949 under the leadership of Kim Il-sung, the country's founding leader. The party follows the ideology of Juche, which emphasizes self-reliance, nationalism, and the Kim family's leadership. The KWP holds a monopoly on political power in North Korea, controlling all aspects of government, military, and society. It operates through a hierarchical structure, with Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-il, and Kim Jong-un serving as its successive leaders. The party's Central Committee and Politburo are key decision-making bodies, with the Politburo Presidium led by the Supreme Leader. The KWP's primary goals include maintaining the regime's grip on power, promoting Juche ideology, and pursuing the development of North Korea as a self-reliant socialist state. It tightly controls all aspects of life in North Korea, including the economy, media, and education, using propaganda and surveillance to enforce loyalty to the leadership. The party also oversees the country's military, the Korean People's Army, ensuring its allegiance to the regime. Despite its rigid control, the KWP has faced international criticism for human rights abuses, nuclear proliferation, and provocations against South Korea and other nations. Office 39 falls under the control of the Workers' Party, which is, by the way, the largest political party of the country, and therefore signifies the importance of the department. Even though the company operates through numerous fronts, the Bureau is known to be state-owned and forms one of the reasons for North Korea's limelight due to its secretive policies as well as the illicit nature of its trade activities. The department has also been subject to various sanctions imposed by international organizations, which has raised some difficulties for the organization to operate on practical grounds. However, it should not be forgotten that it is a state-owned enterprise and therefore backed by the government with various assets under its custody, which has generated more than enough revenue through international funds to allow it to operate efficiently and earn more than enough funds for the North Korean elites to spend a lavish lifestyle without compromising on their expenses. Conclusion. Operating under the largest political party of the country, of which Kim dynasty has direct power, the importance of Bureau 39 in the economy of North Korea cannot be overstated. With various corporations that have been joined under the Bureau, are the ones with the largest international funds that have allowed them to keep the North Korean economy stable and formed a reliable slush fund for the government and the ruling elites to keep up their luxurious lifestyles, while the rest of the population fought for the basic necessities of survival. Various decisions of the Bureau confirm that, such as the choice for pursuing opium growth during a period of famine, despite the public's demand for cultivation of edible grains, and the stark contrast between the lifestyles of the ruling elites and the rest of the population, where the funds fall short to meet the needs of the people, but not the luxuries of the ruling elites. However, despite the sanctions, Office 39 continues to operate on a global level through its widespread network and front companies that make the job a little easier for the organization to carry out its trade activities while hiding the real players of the field. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel to uncover more such exciting mysteries of the world. See you in our next video.